I have the distinct privilege of introducing a good friend of mine. He's been a jury member for, I think, 3 years, 5 years, like I said, 5 years on the 168 Film Project. And he is, yes, now he's at Fox, but he started as an associate post-producer at Fox, went to J. Cannell Company, Stephen J. Cannell, and then he went to Warner Brothers, and then he went to Castle Rock, and then he was a co-producer for an independent film company, and now he's been at Fox for 12 years. He is a LA beat cop, and he still walks the beat to this day. And he is the senior VP of 20th Century Fox post-production rather, and he's been a writer and a producer in television for such companies as I mentioned. And he also has written and produced his own feature, which actually broke even out of the box, which is a huge coup. If I don't know if anybody has produced a feature. Anybody? Have you made money? No, I didn't think so. But he supervises 20 shows at Fox, and among those are one of my favorites, 24. Yeah, anybody? Yeah. Glee. My Name is Earl. Bones, and quite a few others. Please welcome with me Mr. Gary Hall.
John?
So, Gary, that is a pretty wild journey, and we were talking upstairs, and I was just hearing the story for the first time, and I'm like, is it hard to get in the assistant director trainee program? And he said, not when you know the star of a big hit TV show.
That's right.
So tell us about at least that part of it, and then segue into what you do at Fox as a senior VP.
I was telling John that when I got out of UCLA Film School, I could not find a job, and I was blessed enough to work at a stable shoveling horse manure and taking care of horses for an actor. Some of you that are old enough may know who it is, Chad Everett. And I worked for him for a couple of years. And at one point he said to me, you have your college degree, don't you? And I go, yeah. And he said, what's it in? And I said, motion picture television. And he said, well, then why are you working for me shoveling horse manure? And I said, well, I haven't gotten an opportunity. And he said, well, let me see what I can do. And I found out the power of a major TV star at the time. He made one phone call, and the next day I had a job at 20th Century Fox as an assistant director trainee on his new show. So, but having said that, I still had to prove myself and work very hard. The second AD that very first day told me, because I drove in with Chad, and he said, you've got to decide if you're going to be an assistant director trainee or the star's boy. I went, yes, sir, I guess I'll be an AD. He said, okay, you've got a lot longer hours than he does. Drive yourself tomorrow. So he was absolutely right. 12, 14 hours every single day, but I really enjoyed it.
So are you still working 14-hour days? And tell us what you do exactly as a senior VP of post-production at Fox.
No, I don't work 12 and 14. Well, I often work 10-hour days at the job I have now, but I realized pretty quickly I did not want to be in production, didn't want to work those 12 or 14-hour days, and made my transition into post-production as an associate producer and co-producer, as John said, at Stephen J. Cannell Productions and Warner Brothers. Can I tell my Warner Brothers story? I worked at Cannell for 10 years, and then they sold, and I moved over to Warner Brothers. And I was there working, and the head of post-production really liked me. He said, I've got 2 pilots. You can have either one of them. I haven't assigned either one of them. One is a 1-hour comedy for Fox Broadcasting, which at that point was a brand new network. And the other is a 2-hour medical show for NBC. I said, well, let me read the script. I read the script on the comedy. He said, this is really good. Met the producers, liked them. And I said, I'll take that. I don't think it's time for a medical show. Well, if you haven't guessed, the medical show is ER. That I turned down. So, but I don't look back with any regrets. Although I did hear the associate producer got a $100,000 bonus, which I didn't need to know. But I don't look back at it with any regrets. I wouldn't be where I'm at now. I feel like God had a path for me, and that path did not include ER. So
Yeah, everybody's got stuff that, you come to this fork in the road and you take this other path, but, I mean, do you believe that God wanted you at this
I do.
job?
I do. And it's interesting, in our Bible study, our Bible study teacher often says that every so often we get to look at the front of the tapestry of our lives. And having looked back at those, I see where God has taken me each one of those steps. And I have been able to use those experiences, both good and bad. There were many times during my career where I was unemployed, but he still met me at that. I was able to make a living, buy a house, raise a family, so he has been faithful all along.
There is a Bible study on the Fox lot, which Gary, provides for. It's called Tinseltown. And if you guys ever are getting over there on Thursday nights, it's
Wednesday nights.
Wednesday
8
nights,
o'clock.
excuse me. It's a pretty interesting study, and it's great to be on the Fox lot. So,
And Gary's a great teacher. Not this Gary.
Yeah, Gary
teacher
Swanson's
Gary.
a teacher, and Gary attends too. So it's a lot of fun. I definitely talk to us after. We'll give you more information on that. But so what have been some of the hard things? The things
of the
that
career?
Yeah. Well, specifically over at Fox, I'm sure the schedule's pretty hectic. Tell us about that.
Well, I oversee 20 different television shows there, all the way from our animated shows of Simpsons and Family Guy to 24. My job is to do all of the scheduling, to do the budgeting, try and keep the shows on budget, hopefully. A lot of hiring, which I enjoy, some firing, which I don't enjoy. The hardest time, we're getting ready to go into pilot season. We will probably do anywhere from 15 to 20 pilots, so that will mean my department will be overseeing about 40 projects at one time. So it's going to be a very busy time from now until about May. As far as what's the most difficult, I think it's dealing with people sometimes. We have most of our executive producers are terrific people. Some of them are a little more difficult, and they do not like taking no for an answer. I understand their end of it. They look at it from a creative standpoint, but as a studio executive, I got to look at it from the money standpoint sometimes. So I try and meet them halfway. I think I've gotten better with my people skills and better at negotiating. And
So that one time when the guy wanted a real lion, and you gave him a pit bull and a lion suit, how'd that go over?
real well.
Can you tell us an example of, a negotiation with the producer? He wanted Stonehenge, and you gave him a little, 2-foot arch or something like that?
Let's see here. Let me, boy, I go through so many different things. Usually it has to do with people that they want and the money that they want. We work every so often. It seems like during pilots particularly, we work with a lot of feature directors, and they are not accustomed to TV money, and they want all of their people on board that want feature money, and yet we don't just have endless amounts of money. So.
Yeah, I'm sure that gets very interesting at some points. How has it affected the family?
It's funny. My wife was not in the business, didn't like the business, actually hated the business in the beginning. Oddly enough, she teaches violin and is a pretty accomplished violinist, and now plays on a lot of the scores, particularly for animated shows. And I told her, for somebody that doesn't like the television business, she's doing an awful lot of work in the television business. But I think for her, some of it was more just the nature of the business. It is long hours. My bosses and I take the job very seriously, but sometimes she doesn't quite understand the pressures that are involved. And when you really boil it down, all we're doing is making TV shows, but it's still, to my bosses, it's pretty important.